Evening and welcome to Story Hour. I'm tonight's host, Laura Blackwell. My co-host, the marvelous Daniel Marcus, started Story Hour over 3 years ago, so we could just read each other's stories every week. And so we've been back every Wednesday pretty much. Except Daniel's not here this Wednesday, so it's totally kids' table shenanigans for the rest of tonight. We'll be good, Daniel, honest. We'd also like to thank SIFWA for the SIFWA Givers Grant, which is letting us keep the virtual rooms open and the video streaming. Welcome back to those of you returning, and welcome to those of you joining us for the first time. As always, we have two wonderful writers reading for favorite nonprofits. Tonight's readers are Suzan Palumbo and Jordan Shiveley. Jordan, I should have asked if that's how I say your name, not if I said it right. Scowl at me if I said it wrong. Okay, good. If you can, please consider donating to tonight's featured nonprofits, Trans Lifeline and the very topical and timely Indian Reservation School Survivors Society. Suzan Palumbo is reading for the Indian Residential School Survival Society. IRSSS has a wealth of experience delivering wellness and healing services to Indian residential school survivors and intergenerational survivors throughout British Columbia. IRSSS provides essential services to residential school survivors, their families, and to those dealing with intergenerational traumas. These impacts affect every family and every community across BC and Canada. You can learn more at irsss.ca. Jordan Shiveley is reading for Trans Lifeline. Trans Lifeline is a grassroots hotline and micro-grants organization serving and run by the trans community. It offers direct emotional and financial support to trans people in crisis. Microgrants help fund name changes, advocacy, and other important and expensive parts of trans existence. Trans Lifeline envisions a world where trans people have the connections, economic security, and care everyone needs and deserves, free of prisons and police. You can learn more at translifeline.org. If you're here on Zoom, feel free to chime in on the text chat. If you're joining us on Facebook, also feel free to chime in on the text chat, but it's going to be a lot quieter. You might like it that way. We'll get back to you on Facebook when we can, I promise. Our first reader tonight is Suzan Palumbo. Suzan Palumbo is a Trinidadian-Canadian dark speculative fiction writer and editor. Her short stories have been nominated for the Nebula, Aurora, and World Fantasy Awards. She also co-founded the Ignite Awards with L.D. Lewis. Her debut dark fantasy horror story collection, Skin Thief Stories, out now from Neon Hemlock, is on Book Riot's Best Books of the Year list. Yay! Good job, Suzan. Her novella Countess, which I am waiting for with bated breath, will be published by ECW Press in 2024. She's officially represented by Michael Curry of the Donald Moss Literary Agency and can be found on Instagram at Gothic Syntax. When she isn't writing, she can be found sketching, listening to New Wave, or wandering for local misty forests. Suzan, welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me back.
It is our pleasure. Show us that beautiful book cover again with this book.
It's so pretty. I'm sorry, I have no humility over the cover. None.
Oh, never have humility over the covers. I gotta say, it looks really good on video.
You know what? The pictures do not do it justice. Whenever I see the pictures, because it's a matte cover, and I'm like, no, you gotta get it in your house.
You gotta touch it. Gotta touch the matte covers.
Yeah, it's pretty. I like it. Sorry.
Don't be sorry. So, what have you got for us tonight, Suzan?
Okay, so I'm going to read two stories from the book. They're both flash, so I'm going to try and read them slow so I don't go too fast. The first one, and these are reprints. They're not ones that are exclusive to the book. The first one is called Personal Rakshashi. I don't know if you can't see it. It's an interesting one because we just had Diwali pass, and it's kind of related to that occasion. Kind of, not completely. Um, for any sort of trigger warnings or content warnings with this story, it deals with mental illness. So if that is something that you'd like to avoid, then maybe this one isn't for you, but it's not very graphic in terms of physical things, to me, but that's just my warning. Shall I start? I'm gonna start. I'm gonna do this one and then I'll read another one. Personal Rakshashi. Priya's drawing lotuses with chalk on the driveway, unhappy with each blossom's symmetry, when a shadow lurches across her designs. She digs her nails into her palms, fists set to clobber her older brother, Videsh, who's probably come to drag his heels across her picture again. But when Priya stands to confront Videsh, he isn't there. She decides to trace the undulating shadow on the blacktop in yellow chalk. Its bulk encompasses her flowers, and, as she closes the shape, a spot begins to ripple at its center. The blot has depth. It's darker than any other part of the driveway. She watches, wide-eyed, as it devours her lotus petals. One by one, each flower vanishes into the asphalt abyss. When the mouth oozes towards her, Priya drops the stub of chalk and bolts screaming into the house. It's just your imagination, Pri, her father soothes. There are no Rakshasis now. Even if there were, she wouldn't live in our driveway. Priya promises herself that night never to mention the creature again. Priya's sitting on her bed, tears soaking the pages of her sketchpad. She hasn't been invited to Emily's pool party, the social event of 10th grade. It's because you're hideous and awkward. A disembodied voice rasps from underneath her bed. She tries to push the words from her head, but they stain her dreams, their bitterness coating her tongue when she wakes. What's it like to be a social outcast? Videsh says in the upstairs hall. His laugh is clipped, ape-like. Shut up, loser, she responds, though what she wants to say is, it's lonely. I don't fit anywhere, and I hate myself. Their father makes Videsh leave for school with her that morning. He dawdles a few feet behind, pretending he doesn't know who Priya is. Freak! Someone calls as they cross onto school property. Say that to my face, Videsh shouts. Priya doesn't look back to see the fight. Why do you need to move hours away to study art? Their father's voice is suddenly calm after an hour of circuitous arguing. I need to get away, Dad, not from you guys, just to find out who I am. What do you mean who you are? She should go, Videsh cuts in. Why is that? Their father's jaw clenches like a nutcracker as he leans back into the armchair. She's kind of good at this art stuff, spends all of her time in her room anyways. What's gonna happen to her alone in her dorm? Their father laughs. I'll think about it. He stands and climbs the stairs to his bedroom. Priya opens her mouth to thank Videsh. I'm gonna set up a triple monitor and play Red Dead in your room, he says before he slips off into the kitchen. The Rakshasi materializes a month into fall semester. You look delicious, she growls at Priya, brandishing her incisors in a wet, lurid smile. Priya looks at the other students, bantering between sips of pumpkin spice latte in the concourse. No one else has registered the 10-foot colossus looming over her. She collects her sketch pads and pencils and marches straight to her dorm. You don't belong here, the Rakshasi repeats every night for the next week. Priya fills an entire book with studies of the giant's face. The Rakshasi's eyes are textured whirlpools of thick cadmium red and sidewalk chalk yellow. They bore deep into Priya's chest, leaving an aching internal wound. Why are you doing this to me? She asked the Rakshasi, teetering on the edge of exhaustion. The Rakshasi lowers her bulbous head so close to Priya's face, her hot breath condenses on her cheeks. I'm helping you suffer for your art. The Rakshasi's roar rattles Priya's ribs and vibrates her organs, unbalancing her from the inside out in the Greyhound bus cabin. Let me swallow you. The monster sneers. No one will notice. Priya tenses her body and doesn't flinch, even as tears drip down her face. She leaves the overhead reading lamp on well after they reach the lighted outskirts of the city, and the Rakshasi has recoiled across the aisle. The giant, she's learned, is stronger in the dark. Videsh is waiting for her at the passenger pickup. She tosses her bag into the back seat of the beat-up minivan. The Rakshasi forces herself inside before Priya slides the door closed. Hey, Luke! Videsh's greeting hangs in the air as Priya flops into the passenger seat and massages her temples. You okay? Say you're fine. The Rakshasi cackles from the shadows behind them. The words bloom on Priya's lips. She bites them back before they can steal her breath. No, she exhales, I'm not. She casts her eyes downward, anticipating one of his rapid-fire barbs. Videsh is sitting silently when she gains the courage to look at him. He puts his hand on her shoulder. Okay, Pri, he says. He's quiet as they leave the parking lot. The Rakshasi rages, battering the back of the seat, screaming in a frequency only Priya can hear. Priya buries her nails deep into her seat cushion. They pull up to the house, the windows aglow with diyas for Diwali. Priya climbs out of the car, stands on the blacktop. The Rakshasi lumbers out of the back and towers behind her, occupying the space above the long-vanished lotuses. Priya remembers the morning she drew them, her hands steady and her strokes fluid. It was the last time she could distinguish where her thoughts ended and the Rakshasi's began. You're nothing without me, the giant snarls. The Rakshasi's glare is intimate, penetrating. She'll be there every time Priya picks up a pencil. Priya doesn't run. Instead, she turns and invites the Rakshasi inside the house. Tonight, she'll introduce the giant to her family. That's the end of that one. I don't think I've read that out loud before. I can't remember. And the next one, am I doing okay for time? Yeah, okay. The next one, this one I've never read out loud, so you'll have to excuse me if I make mistakes. It's called Tessellated. This one has domestic violence, and it's on screen. So that is a warning for anybody who needs it. Tessellated. Mom was a jigsaw puzzle. Mystery or a riddle, or that you couldn't discern the meaning behind her rare smile. Her skin was grooved into interlocking, thin, wood-like pieces, and tessellated over a green felt dermis. She liked to read on the couch on Sunday afternoons while I assembled moon bases with Lego on the coffee table. Once, I climbed up next to her to show her the rover I'd built and banged my head against her arm, knocking the book from her hands and a tile from her forearm onto the floor. I scrabbled onto the carpet and handed her the chestnut piece. She laughed and slipped it back onto her underlayment. See, she said, all better. Dad would come home from the local dive smelling like rum with a dash of cigarette ash. He'd crush Mom's hand while he slurred about his bosses keeping him down, how he never got a fair shake. The tabs on the pieces of Mom's fingers became worn and delaminated, lifting like hangnails each time she'd extract herself from him and escape to her bedroom. One night, she pulled away too quickly. He jerked her towards him, grabbed the back of her neck, and slammed her down onto her knees. Pieces of her sheared off under his grip and scattered across the floor, exposing islands of her deep green felt. I stepped forward, trembling, wanting to scoop them up, but the defiant crease of her mouth kept me from crying out for him to stop. Dad let go and kicked the scraps of her across the room before weaving into her bedroom and passing out on the bed. Mom picked up her tiles and put them into a box with the money she'd been hiding under a floor vent cover. We left the next morning to stay with her mother. Dad showed up later, begging for us to return. When Grandma's door remained closed, he raged. "Who the hell do you think is going to want you, bitch?" Grandma covered my ears while Mom phoned the police. I bawled when they took Dad away. With Grandma's help, we moved to Toronto, and Mom found a job at the local school. We settled in, and over the months and years, she took each tile Dad had knocked loose, 5 pieces from her knees, another from her left arm, 7 from behind her neck, and smoothed them back into place. She was whole again, except for the pieces above her heart. They wouldn't lie flush like before, no matter how hard she tried to force them down. By the time I entered high school, S-shaped fault lines had breached the surface of my stomach and worked their way up my chest and down my arms, compartmentalizing my skin with each new experience I had or book I read. I hid them under long-sleeve shirts. "It's nothing to be ashamed of, Angeli," Mom said one morning at breakfast. I stared at my cereal and didn't answer. "It doesn't mean we're weak." At night, I traced the new channels between the pieces and wished they'd vanish in the wake of my fingers. "Who's gonna want you?" I'd mouth to the dark. Mom was there 2 years later when I came out of my room ready for junior prom wearing a black dress that revealed my scribed arms. We conceded after an hour of waiting that I'd been stood up. My chest hung concave and loose, on the brink of crumbling inwards with each shuddering breath. "It's okay," she whispered into my hair as she held me on the couch. "Cry tonight. Tomorrow you'll put yourself back together." Our tiles became more intricate, more difficult to keep in place. Mom went back to school and became a reading recovery specialist. I, an engineer. And whenever there were breakups, financial hardships, even the dissolution of my own marriage, we'd spend months bent over the kitchen table repairing ourselves, re-adhering each piece with flour-based glues, sealing our surfaces with beeswax or coconut oil. Mom's older now. I visit her twice a week with Vickis, my little boy. She calls out to us when I open the door, and we usually find her seated in front of the television with a box of her tiles that have come loose. Today she lets Vickis play with them. He holds them up in his tiny hands, a tile from Mom's fingertips, a piece from just below her nose. She recounts the memories they carry, the light weft of my grandmother's bright saris, the sweet sawdust scent of me as a newborn. Vickis scrunches his eyebrows as he tries to fit these incongruous pieces together. Soon he'll have his own fragments to reckon with, Mom says with a rueful smile. I help her replace her tiles. The pieces don't fit as snugly as they used to. The verdant felt between her seams is visible. The day will come when they all fall off, she says as we walk to the front door. I kiss her head. Don't worry, I'll pick them up for you. She puts her hand on her chest where the tiles still bow upward. You can't keep me whole, Angeli. I hug her goodbye, then Vickis gives her a kiss. She waves as I help him into the car, but her hand clips the porch railing. A piece of her wrist dislodges and sails into a potted geranium. She eases onto her knees to look for it, the shallow dent of worry on her brow. Before I can run up the front steps, she pulls the tile from the dirt and holds it up, a weak smile curving her lips. Will Grandma be okay? Vickis asks when I return to the car. I look at his still unedged skin. The corners of my lips slip downward. I hope so, Vickis. I hope so.
Oh, Susan, you're so good at ominous.
Is that ominous? I don't know. I just feel like that's my regular personality.
Yeah, I feel like there are many points of ominousness in your stories, yes.
Thank you.
Many
I'm gonna take
points
that
of
as
anticipation and dread, yes.
good. I'm happy. I'm gonna be quiet though now because I think it's Jordan's turn, is it?
It is. Now, everybody, we like to at Story Hour just take a moment between the readers because each reader is so unique, and we've just had this download of immense stories. So just take a moment to breathe and integrate those stories into yourself and prepare for more.
It would be amazing if the chicken dance played right when you said that, like in the middle.
That would be great. Yeah, we'll have to figure out a way to do that. We need a tech genius if anybody ever wants to volunteer. That was Suzan Palumbo, everybody.
So great.
And our next reader tonight is a Story Hour debut, Jordan Shiveley. Yay! Jordan Shiveley is the author of the Dread Singles Twitter account at Hottest Singles. One of the funniest things on Twitter, I gotta say. Their work has also been seen in a variety of short fiction venues, such as The Best Horror of the Year, Volume 15, Nightmare Magazine, Void Junk, Baffling from Neon Hemlock, as is Void Junk, and tabletop role-playing games. Their first novel, Hot Singles in Your Area, is slated to be released from Unbound in August of 2024 and is available for pre-order. I have a link for that, so you don't have to search for hot singles in your area. Although if you put in Jordan Shiveley's name, the right thing comes up.
And also, if you just search just hot singles in your area, a lot of different things comes up.
Yeah.
The fun of starting a funny Twitter account and then it somehow becoming your professional account and having to tell people that Twitter handle in professional settings.
Yeah. Something which you are very familiar with, I understand. Yep. Yes. They live and work in Minneapolis, Minnesota. To learn more, go to jordanshively.com. Jordan, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
It's our pleasure. What have you got for us tonight?
I have for sure 2 stories, and then we're going to see how the time is and maybe have a finisher. The first story is called A Table Set in Waiting, and it was in Baffling Magazine, which you can read it online now, or they have a pre-order right now up for Baffling Year 2 if you want to get it in print. Every year they do like a print version of all the stories from the year, like a collection. And that's Neon Hemlock. So my content warnings for this first story is gore, sexual situations, homophobia, and masturbation. So this is A Table Set in Waiting. No one knows who found the dark room first. Maybe it found us, needed us. We are taught to venerate first times. First time you lose a tooth, first time you taste alcohol, the first time you masturbate through angry tears zipped inside your sleeping bag at a youth group retreat. But even now, I only hold the faintest smudge of a memory, a static film of the stairs down the basement, a slash of yellow flaking paint that peeled away from a door handle, the suffocated rattle and wheeze of an air conditioning ground unit that leaked silent pools over time-polished concrete floor. The dark room. Even writing it out here, it loses some of the weight that it used to insert on reality. The memory, much like the word, has been erased and rewritten one too many times, its page wearing thin. It was the summer Colin Haters bit my ear till it bled while I jacked him off in the sweet, musty sweat of the art room storage closet. I remember standing in front of the door, watching my friends enter it one by one. A glass security door covered with stickers and no shoes, no service, and bathroom is for customers only signs this time. But the door itself never mattered. We were there for what was behind it. Darkness enveloped each of them only a few feet into the room. The darkness did not take them gradually. This was not the receding of a figure solely being shadowed by distance, time, or the absence of light. It was a sudden swallowing, a working of a throat pulling a mouthful down an esophagus in the space of a breath, a delineated border of dark that pushed across the landscape of their bodies, like thrusting your face into a bathroom sink full of water during a dinner party so no one would hear your choked sobs. One moment they were there, bisected by dirty hallway light and flat impenetrable shadow, and the next they were gone. It looked so beautiful. Even in the dim hallway, I could still see my skin, my blocky hands scratched from yard work, my neon blue Swatch watch with the yellow stripes on the band that I wore ironically, but really I just thought it was pretty. My dick was sweaty and hatefully half hard in my briefs. All the landmarks of polluted meat and bone that served as a trigger for my memories, remembering the people I wished would want to see me, touch me, spit in my mouth, anything but look at me the way they did in hallways and grocery store lines. Once we were inside, you could look back and see the door floating there, but I never looked back after the first time. The whole point of the room was that coming to meet you in the dark, the thing that came forward slowly towards your aching, throbbing body of meat and bones, towards your skin, your fevered needs, your wrung out dreams. Its approach felt like the change in air pressure before a storm, the building tension pressed against your eyeballs and prickled the nape of your neck. And then it was there, always slithering around your feet at first, snaking up along the sweat-lined, tender skin at the back of your knee, or long bending fingers encircling your ankles and rubbing back and forth as their grip tightens. I could never tell what the thing looked like. In the dark, you couldn't see shit, and that was the point. Then you feel the claws, teeth, knives, held by a host of many small, hungry hands. It didn't matter. They were tracing over your skin, pressing through your clothes to draw a map of what was to come. I would hold my breath, drawing in gaping mouthfuls of need. My lungs would burn as I waited for the thing to continue. I held so still, afraid if I moved, it would dart away and leave me unfinished and ruined. When the first cut began, something dry and leathery would push apart my lips to scrape like rustling paper through the cage of my teeth. Then talons, knives, teeth begin to slice along the lines they had been tracing, and the thing in my mouth would push its way further and further inside of me, filling cavities I hadn't known existed until it was inside them. I would, of course, scream at this point. I would scream until I felt like every vein in my body would explode. I would scream up into the thing as it entered me, a desperate keening of agony and welcome. And then it would all fall away. The skin, the meat, the time Colin Hayter shoved me onto the hard linoleum of the school hallway and broke my glasses just because I leaned against the locker next to his and said, "Hey, you," like a total fucking cum drunk idiot. The thing in the dark would take all of it. After, I could still hear it moving, the slapping sound of meat and rearranging itself close and warm, an invisible limb thrusting itself into a wet and welcoming glove. On the floor, free of everything, staring into the blessed dark as it left the husk of meat and bones, as it left in the husk of meat and bones I had entered with. Sometimes, when it came back, our skins were battered and burned. Alex Caton's was so ruined that he collapsed dead after. We left him in the parking garage and ran. Other times it would drag meat back into the room. Bodies, flinched and broken, joints cracked and bone poking from islands of wet meat like stark wet seashells. The thing wearing my body would always stand over me chewing. It sounded more like forcing gristle through a meat grinder than human mastication. It never let us stay like that. No matter how much we begged or wept, it would always come back and reclothe the blissful nothing it had made of us with the meat and sweat and shame it had taken. Then it would be done with me for the time being. Even if I knelt there in the all-encompassing dark for hours, it wouldn't return. So I would leave, the weight of my self-perception a raw, seeping sunburn against a wool sweater, until it became unbearable and I went looking for the dark room again. Each time it took longer and longer to find, until finally it just wasn't there. I can't blame it. I just wish I knew what I did wrong, what I need to change to be what it wants to consume again. I never saw what the thing in the dark looked like. There is a cloudy, scratched mirror down here in the basement, hung over a chipped ceramic sink, stained from generations of people trying to scrub the world off their skin. When I look at it, my face is different. My jaw hangs lower, and when I move it, I can feel the bones in it clicking against each other, like the ratcheting of an adjustable wrench, like a chicken bone cracking in a garbage disposal. I like what I see. I can feel myself getting hard. I hate it. I hate that I hate it. I rub the corners of my mouth with raspy fingers, letting it stretch open even farther, remembering the razor lines of cuts tracing over me. I think about what it must have looked like walking around under the sun with my skin taut around it, and I unbutton my pants. I pull my shirt up over my head. The collarbones in the mirror are stark valleys rimmed with freckles. My reflection touches the place Colin Hayter marked with his teeth, and when it moves my hand away, he is still there. I like what I see. I stare at my shirt balled up in my hand and throw it into the darkness of the basement's far corner, a chumming of the water. I step out of my pants and kick them after it, a baiting of the air. I push my underwear down my hips. My reflection slides one hand over my cock and the other one inside my mouth. It probes my teeth, and the thick piece of meat that lies between them vibrates and slides against my stiff fingers as I moan. I grasp the writhing worm of my tongue hard between two fingers and thumb and squeeze, the loose edges of my mouth shuddering as I scream into my hand. For a moment, I think the darkness behind my reflection thickens and my cock jerks of its own accord, but then it's gone. Come back. The muscles at the root of my tongue spasm, but I tighten my grasp. I think about Alex Caton and what was left of him on the floor of the dark room, gristle clogging a drain. I think about what the thing brought back with it, about the wet sound of its feeding. I think about how much of myself I will have to throw into the dark corner of my basement before it notices me again. I think about my family sleeping upstairs, and I pull. The end. Thank you. All right. The next story is called Weft, Warp, and Pile. And it is in Void Junk number 3, which I think you can still buy. The content warnings for this one is gore, sexual situations, and vor. Things inside of us clack together like ice cubes, knocking against glasses of tea on far-off porches of my youth. Things inside of me tear and unfurl. You are pulling them. I am unfurling them. You take them and lay them out, glistening on clean porcelain plates, pale and curved like the urinals you scrubbed in the bathrooms of your youth. We are making room. I think about school field trips before I knew what I was capable of. The butterflies pinned down beneath glass, beetles spread between panes telescoped beyond display. This is not like that. Just because you have pinned back the walls of my pulsing flesh so I can watch does not make me like those insects. If anything, the organs that you are now bathing between your bare hands, glazing with what anyone else would call your tongue, but I know better, they are the pins and tape that hold you to me. I know about the long cilia that are caressing the shape of my liver, that are entwining themselves moss-like through the cavern of my ribs. You described them to me before the first time. The hotel room it happened in could have been nicer. Most rooms could be nicer than they are allowed to be. This room was not nice unless you think of it more than just old polyester bedspreads and 4-channel local cable televisions. If you think of it as the liminal moment when I finally gave syllables to the hunger that had ached at the back of my throat for as long as I can remember, if you think of it in those definitions, then that hotel room off of County Room 46A was a cathedral. The stains hidden from the black lights, like on daytime reality TV shows, where the host looks on grimly and the audience oohs and ahs in morbid fascination, were its stained glass. The constant rubble of the out-of-order ice machine outside the door, a holy glossolalia that sang an annunciation chorus as I found the first thing I had ever cared enough to believe in. This is not that first time. Hunger can be a door. Hunger can be a key. I taught you this just as surely as you opened the catechism you kept under your suit. The pages of your flesh that spread themselves before my hunger, your need that slivered from behind lattice bone petals and looped intestines, the papery crackle of your skin that up close smelled like dried grass and mud. The things that arrived out of you when that skin flaked away weren't what I was there to see. The glistening tendrils and chitinous interlocking shells weren't the things I needed to speak my hunger. They were just a reflection that allowed me to recognize it, to see where it nested behind my eyes, between my every breath. Now you are taking neat round bites out of one of my organs. Small spheres like you would get from one of those tiny melon ballers fancy bartenders use. The mouth that you use to take bites of me is like the small swaying cilia that still fill me, just larger, more narrowed case usage. It scoops softly, almost questioningly, before more tendrils come out of it to latch onto the piece of me and pull it up into your mouth. Once you start eating, I like to close my eyes. The tensile rigidity of your proboscis pushes against the walls of my organs. The other cilia continue to feel me, to fill me, tiny tongues in the gaping mouth of my insides. They press themselves into every fold and cleft they can find and take root. The thought that they know parts of me I could only know through the reflected senses of their spiraling roots causes me to arch my back and stiffen the muscle walls within my abdomen, catching them in place, marking them on a map of meat and viscera until I exhale and they go back to spreading where you send them. I still feel them as ghost echoes, however, and this knowing becomes a part of their own granules of knowledge, a recursive swelling of recognition that fills me even as the small mouthfuls of me slowly fill you. If I concentrate, I can feel parts of me traveling from your mouth and down the winding, looping path that will take it inside you. Inside you, I can feel it, and I don't know if this is me remembering how you described it to me, or if you have enough of me in you that at this moment of consumption, of merging, I can feel through you because piece by piece, I am becoming you just as much as you are becoming me with what you leave behind. When you finish eating, I open my eyes. This is the part I think I like the most. Looking down at the valley inside me, the glistening organs reknitting from your saliva, the small hands that you hide from the world, placing pieces of you back where you have bitten off pieces of me. I watch you work, and the world buzzes in time to you thrumming inside of me. Your hands, my meat, your meat, are keeping time, singing in tune to words whose shape I can finally taste. I can't just wait to see what we decide to know next. The end. How are we doing on time? Because
We absolutely have time for another story.
Well, thank you. And this last one, is actually unpublished, and it is called Beneath the Stones They Thought to Keep. And it also has homophobia, gore, and violence, but hopefully this one's a little more triumphant than the first two. You are going to see a lot on the news about what I did, who I killed, but I want you to know I did it for us. I imagine that the news alert has just popped up on your tablet as you're in the middle of reading this, and you are looking back and forth between the two, unable to shake the feeling that this has to be a horrible dream. They will have used the worst pictures they can find of me, ones that make me look small and unimpressive. They will be misgendering me with the leer of creatures that think they have the throat of something weaker firmly between their jaws. They do not know what is coming. I know you are probably crying by now, and I hope you've kept reading instead of letting this letter fall from nerveless fingers as the news continues and continues and continues, setting up a narrative where what I did was horrible and selfish. And it was. I have zero fucks to give for the pieces of shit that shot up our clubs and bashed our heads in even as we walked hand in hand from local grocery stores. I no longer hold to societal niceties for a society that would not walk across the street to piss on us if we were on fire, a fire I am certain they set. You are going to be hearing the word senseless a lot. But let me assure you that what I did was the only thing that made any sense. On the next page, you will find a map with every place I killed someone in the last week marked on it. Every place I flinched the skin from the meat of some innocent citizen. Every place I left a pile of fingernails or a handful of their bloody teeth. Every religious hate club I set ablaze and every Baptist I nailed to their front doors are marked out in clear, calm, legible markings. And then, in my favorite Dayglow highlighter from that Gudetama, forgive me, you perfect little sleepy egg, set you gave me for our first anniversary, yes, the one I've been saving and not letting anyone use, with that marker, I connected them all for you. Can you see it? The symbol it forms? It's the shape. It's the same as the one they found carved into almost every square inch of my skin. Have they gotten to that part on the newscast yet? When they say that following images are graphic and may be upsetting to some of a more sensitive nature? Does the newscaster have a look of feral glee? I imagine he would in this moment, drunk on his own fucking supply of hate, just glowing from slathering that money shot of bigotry all over his chiseled chin and steroid vein neck. I don't want you to look away. I'm sorry, baby, I really am. Not for what I did, but for your tears. For the way your chest must be contracting, like you swallowed every word you were ever going to say to me, every sweet nothing, and now they are all just sitting in the back of your throat, rotting, choking you with their lost potentiality. I am sorry for that, and that alone. There is a journal hidden inside my mom's copy of Betty Crocker's home recipes. I will tell you, it will tell you all about the symbol, where I found it, what it told me it could do for us, all of us. Babe, babe, are you finished reading it? Fucking insane shit, right? Except it works. I tested it on a small scale, siphoned just enough energy from smashing in the skull of that local cop who accidentally kicked in the glass door of the bookstore over on Main that was doing Drag Queens Read for the monthly children's story hour. An unfair level of punishment, some would say, an unhinged retaliation. What did we do besides live and love and dare to do it together where we could be seen? Were the fires and the raids their fucking fair reaction to us existing? Okay, sorry, I'm getting off track here. I tested it first. I'm not an idiot. With just that much energy and the symbol scrawled on the brick, I brought it back a sparrow that had flown to the back porch window last week. Yes, the one we buried beneath the jacaranda tree. It burst from the ground. Yes, I screamed a little. And after hopping towards me, it stopped, looked me directly in the eye, and flew away. What did you think it was going to do? Deliver a prophecy? You fucking nerd. Fuck. I love you so much. Yeah, shut up and keep reading. Are you thinking about what that means? Have you figured out why I did all this? I bet you have. One of the reasons I love you is that terrifyingly devious brain of yours. Do me a favor right now. Shake your head and mutter to yourself, that crazy son of a bitch. They really did it. And I did. By the time you are finishing this letter, there should be a new breaking news story interrupting the first one, of mausoleums being torn open by invisible forces unfelt by anyone who witnessed them, reports of graves yawning open with nothing inside of them but splintered coffins, of long thought scrubbed away blood, lifting itself from the very fucking stones it was spilled on, and flowing through the air to form figures lost on those spots. And this will be no limbs waving mass of rotting flesh, no groans and sagging jaws. Those they stole from us will be returned, perfect and inviolate. They will have crossed the veil, and now having recrossed it will never again hold sway over them. And no, my love, I will not be among them. Something like this always has a price of some sort. One of us had to be the last to be buried and stay buried, to serve as the guide to return everything, everyone we've lost. I know it is unfair and at once the most expensive and the fucking cheapest deal of the century. But please look at the faces in the photographs now being shown. Think about what this means. Every one of them, every last one. There will be headlines that feature unburied. Maybe they'll even call them the unburied. I am sure they will try at first to hide what they all have in common. That each and every one of them were bashed and shot and burned and 1,000 other violences because of who they loved and how they dressed or even what they were named. But you will know that the rest of us will know they are our departed gays, our drag queens and kings and dykes and tweaks, and especially our daddies. Assume me, I have a type. They are all now and forever unburied, 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 forever. Amen.
Wow, Jordan, I don't think that one's going to stay unpublished for long. And I certainly hope not, because I'd like to get my eyeballs on that one as well as my eardrums.
Thank you.
What was the title of that one?
Beneath the stones they thought to keep.
Beneath the stones they thought to keep. All right. Ooh. We have had some great stories tonight. Thank you so much, both of you.
Well, thank you for having me.
It is my pleasure. I'm very happy with the way the story hour has been going. Thank you for reading us the extra too. That was really great.
I'm gonna check up on chat.
I'm here every week, usually with Daniel. We'd love to have Suzan and Jordan come back, but we've got somebody else booked to actually read stories. But come visit. Next week, our readers are Cynthia Gomez and Kate Hartfield. And I recommend checking storyhour2020.com the day of the reading, just in case of any changes. Hardly ever happen. And storyhour2020.com also has a nifty calendar. And if you scroll down a bit, you'll be able to, down to the bottom, you'll be able to see what's coming up. And then you can decide what your calendar absolutely needs on it. There are also some links that go through to the Story Hour page on Facebook so that you can catch up on some of the story hours you may have missed. In an hour or so, you'll be able to click back to this one and watch it just as many times as you like. And yeah, that's the basics of Story Hour. Suzan Palumbo, Jordan Shiveley, thank you very much for sharing your stories with us tonight. And I'd like to thank our founder, Daniel Marcus. Whatever he's doing tonight, save me a slice of pie. And to thank all of you who are here tonight, all of you who are joining us in the future on Facebook, because as long as you're here listening with the stories, we're all here in the same story hour. Good night.